On Wednesday night, with just 15 minutes to go until his mandate expired, Benjamin Netanyahu informed President Isaac Herzog that he had formed a government. And whilst the I's are still being dotted and the T's are being crossed with his new coalition partners, Israel is waiting with bated breath as to what potentially the most right-wing government in Israeli history has in store. Reportedly, some of the deals that have been signed or demanded includes a law that will allow Parliament to overrule the High Court on certain decisions, plans to, quote, Judaize the West Bank, and removing the law which bans members of the Knesset from using inciting language. A new demand, an amendment to the law prohibiting discrimination in services and products, has come under scrutiny, as two religious Zionism MKs have said that doctors and hotel owners can refuse service to people, such as homosexuals, on religious grounds. But with Netanyahu promising LGBT rights will not be harmed, is he already breaking promises, or will he stand strong and fight with his own coalition? Is Israel moving further towards a halachic state based on the laws of Judaism, and will that discriminate against minorities, or could this be beneficial for all? How will these laws impact Israel's global standing? What's next for Israel?
So let's get to it. What is next for Israel? As always, we begin with a quick-fire round of 30 seconds each to lay out your initial stance on the matter and pick up the debate from there. So, Mr. Altabef, please take the lead. Your 30 seconds are on.
Well, certainly Bibi has to show the world that he is the Bibi of old, that he is the great statesman, is steering the ship of state. Remember, a lot of the fireworks that we've just seen were because people in the coalition didn't expect or would expect that if they didn't insist on changes now, they wouldn't get them post-hate. And we've already seen something being walked back where Bibi says, if I can get something from Riyadh, I'm willing to put annexation to the side.
Okay, but we will dive in further into this in a split cycle. We'll just complete our initial round. Adam Scott Bellos, your take?
Hi, thank you so much for having me today. My take is that we're looking at either a 2-year or 4-year government, depending on how long Bibi wants to keep it together. I think that what Doug brought up about things being brought up in the very beginning is probably one of the most important things that happened. Okay, prior, or just for the future of this coalition. That way we don't have any surprises. I do think what's next, peace with Saudi Arabia. I think that's going to be first on the agenda. I think Netanyahu has a lot to get done within the first year of this coalition, and I definitely think that's going to be one of the main things that he's going to be trying to push.
Yariv, Oppenheimer, peace in the Middle East. That's the first item on the pending coalition's agenda.
I wish to take what you are taking and to be happy like you, because the reality is totally different. And what we are seeing is an agreement between Netanyahu and the rest of the parties in the coalition that actually it's the end of the season sale of Israeli democracy. We are talking about politicizing the police. We're talking about making the Supreme Court a weak and ineffective. We are talking, it's not funny, it's really, really scary. And I think that what we are seeing today is the collapse of democracy. And what we are going to see is Jewish supremacy, not just in the West Bank that we used to see, that Jewish people has more rights than Palestinian, but it's going to be here in Israel as well.
Okay, let's open the floor for discussion. Adam, you're already going at it, so please.
I mean, just like the New York Times, we can rely on Yariv to be totally alarmist. I think it was very important that Bibi came out and said not too long ago that he is the prime minister. And it's very important to note how our governments work. Well, we do have many ministers. There is a prime minister. So I really don't see any anti-LGBTQ or anti-democratic things going through the Knesset unless we're referring to specifically with the Supreme Court, which we still don't know how it's going to work. And I'm sorry,
Can I ask you a question?
Don't really see
Can I ask you a serious question, please?
No, but I'm going to finish this. But I'm going to finish this point, Yariv. I really don't understand how anyone can be so doom and gloom when what's on the horizon, which is peace with Saudi Arabia. And if there's peace with Saudi Arabia, that completely changes the last 75 years of conflict. It literally eliminates the first 75 years of conflict in the Arab world and the Palestinians.
Adam, I think it goes deeper than that. This is a deja vu. that Yariv was probably involved in, or his predecessors in 1977. When Begin got elected, it was the end of Israeli democracy. When Sharon was elected in 2001, it was the end of Israeli democracy.
And Netanyahu is so correct.
And it doesn't lie.
Gentlemen, we want to hear all of you, please. Yeah, okay.
I thought that I'm being invited to a news show and not a sitcom, because what you're saying is really, I wish it will be the reality, but it's not. Just take the LGBT thing, okay? Just please let me finish. Please let me finish. Let's take, for example, the issue of LGBT. Let's assume that this coalition will pass law that will discriminate them. Who is going to protect their rights? Because the Supreme Court is not going to be capable of doing that. But it's not just a second. It's not just the LGBT. It's also the. It's also the Israel.
You talk about threats to democracy. The Supreme Court.
Now this is a threat for the freedom of speech of mine. Please let me conclude my argument. Please let me conclude my argument. What I'm saying is that without
to itself the right to decide whatever it wants. It has no sense of standing. It has no sense of reason. And the only reason why you're upset about it, look, the Yariv Oppenheimers of America can't wait to disembowel the U.S. Supreme Court because it skews right. You cherish the Supreme Court here because it skews left. But it is not functioning the way a Supreme Court is supposed to function.
Yeah, Yariv,
in the U.S., you got the Constitution. It's a totally different system. But what we are saying today, that this government is going to politicize the Israeli police. The minister will have more authorities than ever. He's going to limit the power of the Supreme Court. These are facts. He's going to give Jewish people more rights than Arab people, including housing and building new communities, etc. We are talking about also coalition members that are talking out loud against the LGBTQ community.
Yariv, let's be honest.
And we are talking about the most homophobic person in the Israeli parliament that is going to be a minister.
Adam,
a minister in the education system.
Adam,
it's all conjecture.
Okay, we have
I agree that there should be no incitement.
Gentlemen, you're speaking at the same time. We want to hear both of you. Douglas, please.
For sure. No problem. I can't see everybody, so I apologize.
Oh, good, Adam. Thank you.
This is woke sour grapes looming very large. The left lost the election. Meretz is not even in the government. Issues that a lot of the religious people are concerned about are fairly narrow issues. Adam has it right. Bibi is going to show himself to be the leader of the country. He's one of the leaders of the free world. That's going to be his challenge. He wants to bring Saudi Arabia into the Abraham Accords.
But Douglas, he can't even get his coalition. Adam, he can't even get his pending coalition members intact.
I think it's totally unfair to judge anything yet. Now, I agree, like some of the comments that have been made recently by members of the government, especially against the LGBTQ community, are it's unfathomable that in the liberal democracy that we have, that is okay. And like there is no room for incitement in the Knesset. I don't care if it's by Arab Israelis, by Islamists, or by Jews, by anti-Zionists, by national religious or secular people. There's no room in our democracy for incitement. Two, okay, like Douglas was saying, I was referring to what I was saying earlier. Bibi is going to be playing a much larger public role with this government because he's not going to want a lot of his coalition partners in the public eye.
It's very nice that you think that Netanyahu is good.
Three. Yeah, Yariv, I'm going to make my third point. Three,
please.
If peace is on the horizon, okay, and I'm sorry, I understand how big of a hit this was to the left. Not only were they able to unseat Netanyahu, who's pretty much the greatest political operator of the 21st century, but they weren't able to keep him out of office, and they weren't able to actually keep that coalition together that wasted hundreds of billions of shekels over the last 6 elections, okay? And anything anybody's ever accused Bibi of nowhere near amounts to the wasted money of these last elections. So let's just go back to my point about making peace. Yariv, if you're worried about human rights, if you're worried about the dignity of others, okay, and if you actually care about the future liberalism of the country, then the only thing that you should be rallying for right now is that every single thing gets done that needs to be done for Netanyahu and this government to make peace with Saudi Arabia, because this is what happens every time. The way we're talking about Ben Gvir right now is the way that we talked about Naftali Bennett 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
And look what happened, Adam, and look what happened.
Exactly. Bennett moved to the left. Bennett moved to the left, and that's what I'm saying. You can't.
Yariv, please.
Yes, I'm going to let you respond.
I wish you're right, but when I see the documents, when I see the publishment about the new coalition agreement,
what do you mean? You wish I'm right?
Just let me finish.
You would worry about peace.
These are facts. Let's talk about the West Bank, because Saudi Arabia will not have peace with Israel without a Palestinian political future. Okay,
right? Just like there would never be.
Just a second. They are saying it constantly.
No.
Let me finish. Why you are so afraid of listening to you?
Let's allow Yariv to make his stand, please. Yariv.
Saudi Arabia said it out.
Let's create geopolitics that don't exist.
Saudi Arabia said it very clear that it's not going to have peace with Israel without a Palestinian state. Now, this government is promising to establish a new settlement called new settlements called Aviatar. It's promising to legalize all the illegal outposts. This is not a government of peace. This is government of occupation, of settlement. This government will never have peace with Saudi Arabia, with all due respect.
No, this is not about you're talking about a world that doesn't exist.
Gentlemen, it's very difficult to hear all of you at the same time. Douglas, we have 1 minute left. Please, your concluding remark to part A.
There's a lot of overwroughtness here. The right-wing ministers have some pet issues that they want to address. OGAT, settlement approval. Bibi is going to want to show the world that he is the prime minister of Israel. That is going to trump everything, as it were. And you're going to see him very quickly establish himself. He wasn't unwilling to slap down anti-LGBTQ criticism to show who's in charge. He's going to show that he is in charge, and that's what you can count on.
Well, what is clear that Netanyahu is bound to breach promises either to his coalition partners or to the public, because not everyone can stay happy at the same time. But we will put a stop right here. We're taking a short break, but when we get back, we continue our discussion, and also will an inner Likud party revolt is in the making. Likud members left without any prestigious portfolios. Again, only days before the government is sworn in. Adam Scott Bellos, Douglas Altabef, and Yariv Oppenheimer. You're staying with us. A few minutes break, and we're back with part 2 of our summit. Welcome back to the summit. Still with us, Adam Scott Bellos, Douglas Altabef, and Yariv Oppenheimer. Thank you, gentlemen, very much for staying with us. We're also staying on topic a bit before we dive back into the conversation. Let's take a listen to former coalition whip from Benjamin Netanyahu's own Likud party, David Bitan, saying loud and clear, the Likud party didn't just lose some, high-profile portfolios during coalition talks. It has lost it altogether. Let's take a listen.
I think it's all because there's no alternative, and also the negotiations in the previous government caused an increased appetite for everyone. It is very interesting that the factions did not ask for the prime ministership. That is the only thing they did not ask for. They wanted everything else. In the end, they recognized Netanyahu's leadership, but beyond that, they want everything in cash and as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, the Likud party has lost it in the coalition negotiations.
So let's get to it. Another quick fire round of 30 seconds each. Do you foresee a scenario in which Likud party members are turning their backs against their chief? Adam, take the lead, please.
So I would say that anybody that thinks that Netanyahu won't have control over the Likud is unfamiliar with his relationship with his party since the 80s. Netanyahu has always been able to run not only primary after primary and constantly maintain its leadership, but has also stepped down at times to prop other people up, So I do not foresee there being any issue there. Also, really quick note, every single person that has challenged him for leadership has also failed and failed miserably. Most recently, the head of Tikva Hadasha.
Yep, Gidon Sar steering the political landscape, but opposition benches, deep in the opposition benches. Yariv Oppenheimer, your thoughts?
I wish that people, serious people from the Likud, liberal people, and there are people that are liberal in the Likud, will raise up and speak up against what Netanyahu is doing, and it's a fact. He is doing it. It's not just thinking about it. Unfortunately, they don't have the courage to do so. They are not going to do it. They are afraid of their political career, and they are going to be just another people that are voting yes for everything that Smotrich and Ben Gvir is going to dictate over Netanyahu. This is what we saw in the last few weeks. This is what we are going to see this week, and this is what's going to happen in the next few years.
Douglas Altabef, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think you can equate the run-up to the reality of the post-government formation. I think that the Likud will stay loyal to Bibi because they will see that he will produce. He will produce on the foreign policy front. He will produce vis-a-vis the Americans, vis-a-vis the Europeans, and they have great respect for that. And as that clip from Bitan said, yes, they had to give away a lot. You know, that was the run-up. Now, in the running of the government, it will be somewhat different, and Bibi will exercise far greater control.
And on that note,
I agree with Doug.
Okay, yeah, Adam, take it from here.
Oh, no, I was going to say I definitely agree with Doug. Which isn't a surprise, Doug. Great to be here with you, by the way. You know, it's very. Well, him and I have never gotten to meet in person. This doesn't count, by the way. No, I think it's very clear that Bibi is setting himself up for success. I think it's very clear that he'll have the Likud in his back pocket, just like he always has. And I think Doug is right. Complaining about going, like what's coming out of negotiations at the onstart is not necessarily such a bad thing. You know, a good negotiation is where both sides walk away angry.
I have to tell you both. Just reality check. We are not just talking about negotiation. We are talking. Please let me say something.
Let's listen to Yariv.
I'm saying that look about the legislation of tomorrow. Tomorrow, Netanyahu is going to give Smotrich the control over the most sensitive elements in the West Bank, including settlements, outposts, Palestinians, civil administration. He's going to take it away from the defense ministry and to give it to Bezalel Smotrich. This is something that is almost insane, because Netanyahu, as prime minister, is giving away his personal authority over the most sensitive international issues that Israel has. This is also a security issue. So this is a fact. This is legislation. Douglas. It's not an agreement. Yeah. It's not something in the air. It's going to be a new bill, a new law in the Israeli Knesset.
What does that mean?
So first of all, I think, again, you're overwrought. And I think you're overwrought because your side lost. And you know what? There is a lot of improvement that needs to be made in Judea and Samaria. There's big problems with Kogat, and thank God they're going to be addressed. And Bibi is
so why not Netanyahu? So Netanyahu should do it. Why is giving away the authority of the prime minister?
It's always been part of the defense ministry. And now you have, and this is the great irony here, that you have a lot of festering problems that are going to be addressed. Because these right-wing coalition partners are insisting on it, and there is nothing wrong with that. However, overarching all of that will continue to be the Likud-led government and Prime Minister Netanyahu.
But gentlemen, do you think that let it be for domestic reasons, or for the sake of expanding the Abraham Accords, for example? Will Netanyahu at some point need to expand his government to the left?
I mean, I think that Netanyahu, I think it'll go down in history in Israeli politics that this was a very big mistake for Benny Gantz. I think this is the first time that I've ever said, since watching Gantz's political career, that this decision not to join this government could go back to bite him later on. But I mean, I don't know why Yariv is complaining so much about small church having any control whatsoever or moving some responsibilities from the Ministry of Defense to small churches' control, because still at the end of the day, the buck is going to stop at the prime minister. And if small church does overstep his
learn the new law.
That's why he's the prime minister. At the end of the day, he can override whatever he wants, and he's able to do that.
No, and also, let's be fair, gentlemen. When Netanyahu held 6 or 7 portfolios at the same time, the left criticized him. Now that he's handing it out, you're criticizing again, Yariv.
But I have to tell you, something.
If I could make,
you will have to hear it.
Please.
Excuse me, I'm going to make this point, gentlemen.
Let's recognize
Excuse me.
Listen, it's coming out now that the Europeans are squarely behind handing Area C over to the Palestinians.
That's true, because they believe in a two-state solution.
This idea. But
let me
Israelis hate this idea, and they will resist.
Wait, hold on.
Listen.
I'm going to go back to something. Wait a minute. Excuse me. I'm going to talk right now. Excuse me. First of all, I don't know why you're worrying about. I don't know why you're worrying about the things that you're worrying about, because we're all talking about peace. Okay. The only person that's going to bring peace is Netanyahu with Saudi Arabia. 2. Netanyahu is not going to allow small church to do anything that is going to mess up the Abraham Accords, because that has been on his agenda since at least the last 7 years.
Okay.
Listen, two things I want to say. First one, listen.
Quickly, 3 and then Yariv.
I'm making my last point. Okay. 3, you keep talking about a 2-state solution or 2-state paradigm that is part of the past. Okay, that was part of a solution that involved Israel negotiating from a point or a stance of weakness. We talked about this last time we were on here together, Yariv. We will never go back to anything that is part of that paradigm. There's been a paradigm shift.
Let me surprise you. I'm used to be disappointed from the Israeli election. It's not a new thing for me. I'm not talking here about the policy. I'm talking here about democracy. I'm talking about the basic characters of the political system of Israel. I'm talking about a democratic regime. This is scary thing that is going on. When Ben-Gvir is going to be the most politicized minister of police, and he is going to have more authorities than ever. This should be a scary thing for every Israeli. And I'm telling you that we can argue about the policy. We cannot argue about democracy.
And now it's my turn to talk. I'm the oldest guy in the room. Okay? The left is a broken record. Whenever it loses power, democracy is doomed. All right? Democracy was doomed in 1977 when Begin came in. Democracy was doomed when Sharon came in.
Okay, gentlemen, we are out of time. We are out of time. Definitely not out of passion, and democracy will prevail.